Joining me now is Joel Griffith, Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Joel, welcome back. Always so great to see you. As we just heard, it seems Build Back Better is back, but in a different form with smaller pieces. Your thoughts, and do you think, Joel, this strategy will help get the bill across the finish line?
Yeah, well, I wasn't one of the ones that thought this was going to mean its ultimate demise. We know that there is a big push within the Senate, within especially the left wing, to push through as much of that Build Back Better program as possible. And we know what it's chock full of. It's full of more deficit spending, and more importantly, it's full of transforming the American economy. There's a big part of the Green New Deal that is in that package that would drive up electricity costs, drive up manufacturing costs for the American consumer. And at a time when so many families are suffering with these skyrocketing costs of living, regardless of what that spending would be focused on, to print more, to borrow more, to spend more when American families are facing such high inflation is extremely imprudent.
Yeah, and I want to jump off of that. As we talked about before, you know, the price of just about everything has gone up these days. In fact, gas prices are up 8 cents this week after hitting a 7-year high last week. Joel, do you think we'll get any relief at the pump anytime soon? And what do you think it's going to take?
Well, look, oil prices, of course, very volatile, but there's no doubt Americans are feeling the pinch. If you're filling up your minivan in parts of California, you're paying almost $150 to fill up your minivan. And regardless of what the short-term fluctuations are, this Biden administration from day one has declared war on fossil fuels. The very first thing the Biden administration did was kill the Keystone XL pipeline that would have ensured an abundant flow of affordable oil coming in from Canada. And the administration has tried to ban and restrict drilling all across the country on federal properties. And we know that long term, that means we're going to have less affordable, we're going to have less abundant fossil fuels, and that is going to drive up the cost for American families to heat their homes, to cool their homes, to travel. And if you're in the manufacturing business sector, it's going to mean it's going to be a lot more expensive to manufacture goods here in the United States.
You know, something else that's up, home prices. And according to Zillow, those home prices could increase by more than 16% this year. Good, I guess, if you want to sell your home. But for those looking to purchase, especially those first-time home buyers, not exactly the best market. Your thoughts?
Home prices year over year are up 25%. If you're a typical family just trying to get by, let's say you've got a husband and wife making $100,000 per year, you're finding that in many parts of the country, 40% of your income is going to go towards the mortgage payment alone. These are all-time record home prices, not just in terms of the actual dollar value, but in terms of what it costs to get to buy a home relative to one's income. And a big part of that problem has been caused by the federal government subsidizing the mortgage industry, subsidizing the real estate sector. And I know some of the brokers and the builders have been happy with that, but American families are finding it very difficult to buy their first homes. And once families have a child or two, a lot of families are finding that they have to stay in a cramped apartment or a cramped condo a lot longer because they can no longer buy a home with a decent yard and room for their growing families.
Yeah, very tough. I don't want to forget about this. On Friday, the January jobs report was released, and it showed 467,000 new jobs added, topping expectations. Joel, how significant is this, and are you encouraged by those numbers?
Well, month to month, you get a lot of noise in the jobs numbers. Those numbers were, anytime you see jobs created, that's a positive. But what we know over this last year and a half since the pandemic started is we have several million people that no longer are working. And more importantly, relative to prior to the pandemic, we have nearly 3 million people that have left the workforce altogether. People that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s that have decided they're no longer even looking for a job. And all of us have realized this. When you go to a restaurant, you go to a bar, you go to a store, I think we've all noticed that the service has declined. That's because it's been a lot harder to even find people that want to work. And government, another situation where government has caused the problem. First, they criminalized businesses from operating. Then the government paid people not to work. And now you still have rolling school shutdowns and child care facilities that aren't back up and running. And that's thanks to a lot of absurdly draconian COVID policies that across much of the country still have not been lifted. But I encourage people, look at places like Florida, Georgia, Texas. Those economies are booming. People are back to work. but it's really places like California, New York, and Illinois that are holding the rest of the country back right now because those restrictions in many places remain in place.
All right, Joel, we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much. Always appreciate your analysis.
Thank you. Have a good night.